What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. Today we're going to be talking about the M1 Garand and the StG 44, which were both added to Warzone this morning. They are in the battle pass. You can't use the base guns yet in regular Warzone, but you can in private matches. So I've got all the base stats for the guns. You also can't get attachments for them yet. You can only use what comes on the battle pass. So we'll go over all the stats for the base stats as far as, you know, TTKs, DPS, damage drop-offs, ADS times, everything. Basically I have all the base stats for the guns now, so we can kind of get a picture of how they're gonna fit into the meta even before attachments. Obviously with these new Vanguard guns you can put 10 attachments on there, so you're going to be able to change how they actually play pretty significantly with attachments. So this is just me a preliminary look. Shouldn't be too long of a video, just going to cover some basic stuff, but let's get into it here and we'll talk about the two new guns. So these are the two battle pass variants of the STG. This one actually has 10 attachments. It feels okay, but it just has a really high zoom optic, which makes it really hard to control the recoil. So we'll see. I don't think these are optimally built at all. It feels okay, but just too much recoil, in my opinion, to control and use anywhere except up close. But that could just be because of the optics. So we'll see. I'm sure it's not optimally built. And then this one is the other one. It's basically a no stock version of the STG, and it only has 7 of the 10 attachments. So that's pretty crazy that you can put 10 attachments on here. I feel like it's going to make it so you can kind of build a gun, an AR always to be an SMG if you want, or vice versa potentially. Like you might be able to build SMGs to be ARs. We'll have to see how it plays out. I don't really know how that's gonna fit into Warzone in its current state, but it's kind of crazy that we can get 10 attachments. Let's go look at the M1 Garand. So it's a tactical rifle. There's also 2 variants for that available in the battle pass. It won't open for me because apparently I don't have it unlocked, but there's 2 variants for that as well in the battle pass. All right, it actually let me open it this time. I don't know why it wouldn't a second ago. It's still kind of buggy. But we've got 2 different versions of the M1 Garand here. So I've used this actually a little bit. It feels okay. It feels like the recoil is similar to what the Type 63 used to feel like, where it's very visually bouncy, but the reticle really recenters to the same point every time. So it's actually really accurate. So there's a chance it could end up being a meta weapon based on how the recoil feels to me. We need to go look at TTKs and DPS though to see if that's the case. But as far as recoil goes, I do think its recoil is at least somewhat manageable. Both these battle pass variants have 8 attachments instead of 10. So when we get the full 10 and we can actually optimize all 10 of them, I think it can be pretty good. All right, so let's start with the base gun TTKs and DPS. We're going to look at chest shots first. 250 health. I've built some guns that are similar to these 2 guns. So STG I felt was similar to like the EM2 and the AK-47. So I put those on here, as well as the M1 Garand. I put the DMR-14 on there as well because they're similar guns again. So looking at this chart, let's talk about the DMR and the M1 first. DMR is green, M1 is blue. So for chest shots, the DMR is slower in the first range by about 50 milliseconds, and then the second range, it is actually a little bit faster. Looks like about 120 milliseconds faster in the second range. So DMR is looking a little bit better for chest shots, but let's go look at like extremity shots. Extremity shots, the M1 Garand actually beats the DMR everywhere by a tiny bit. So you see green and cyan here. The M1 is the cyan line, so it's a little faster in extremities. Headshots, again, the M1's a little bit faster than the DMR. And then let's just do a neck shot, see if there's any neck shot differences here. So M1 Garand kills 50 milliseconds faster on neck shots as well. So it's looking like to me, with 10 attachments, potentially the DMR is going to be better than the STG. No, the M1 Garand is going to be better than the DMR if we get those 10 attachments on there. So could be interesting. One thing to note, the M1 Garand does have bad bullet velocity. So if we look at the summary stats, we got M1 Garand and DMR right here. The bullet velocity is down right where the DMR is. The DMR also has low base bullet velocity. I don't know why they do that, but they both have lower base bullet velocity, and if you use the titanium barrel on the DMR, you can't get any bullet velocity from that. So it's just annoying. I've talked about this a bunch, but I don't know why they balance the DMR, the Type, the M16, and the AUG with low bullet velocity. That's just a really annoying way to balance a gun to me. It's not fun to hit your shot, not hit your shots. But then while we're on this page, let's look at the STG. So we got the STG over here on the right, AK-47 all the way on the left. So STG 600 RPM, Cold War AK 600 RPM, ADS 267 milliseconds, 271 milliseconds. Sprint to fire time's the same, movement speed's the same, ADS movement speed's the same, bullet velocity's the same, reload time's a little bit worse than the STG, mag size is the same. Sprint speed's the only thing that's better on the STG than the Cold War AK. Everything else is like identical. Strafe speed, I haven't tested this. This is a placeholder value, but I bet you anything it'll be basically exactly the same as the strafe speed. So we'll see. Let's go look at the TTK DPS. Neck shots. The STG and AK are literally on top of each other. It's the blue line at the bottom and the STG. They're the same. Headshots. They're the same. Stomach shots. They're the same. Extremity shots. They're the same. So yeah, the STG literally looks like a copy-pasted version of the Cold War AK to me. Obviously, it has different reload animation, different recoil, and things like that. Let me remove these guns and then go to this base stats page so we can compare them next to each other. So yeah, looking at these side by side, they have literally the same fire rate, the same exact damage profile, 54, 43, 36, 36. Second damage range is also identical, 48, 38, 32, 32, 32. They're basically the same gun. I would like to see some variation there. I don't know why they did that, but for now, they're basically the same gun. Maybe towards actual integration, they'll be changed up a little bit, but that's really all I had to say here. I mean, there's not a lot else to cover. I mean, the STG feels like the Cold War AK with different recoil, and obviously 10 attachments is going to be a huge benefit. I'm hoping they do something to let the older guns have more attachments as well if they're going to do that, but we will just have to see how that plays out. As far as the M1 Garand goes, it's basically the DMR-14. It's going to have a little better TTKs in some areas, a little worse on the chest, but everywhere else is as good or better. Yeah, we'll just have to see how it plays out with 10 attachments, but that's all I wanted to cover. So I hope you guys found it informative and useful. All of these gun stats are up on the website, so you can go look at them yourself if you want. I hope you have a good day, and I will see you in the next video.